morning, and today we're here with Mr. Victor Young, and Victor is going to be our speaker at the Tampa Bay Black Business Investment Corporation's Collaborative Mixer on November 16th. And so we wanted to have a casual conversation with him. My name is Albert Lee. I'm the president and CEO of Tampa Bay Black Business Investment Corporation. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Black Business Investment Corporation, we've been around 30 years. We're a community development financial institution, certified through the U.S. Department of Treasury. And we're also a certified Black Business Investment Corporation through the state of Florida. And what that means is that we make capital available to you as business owners. And so today, it's very important that we have this conversation with an entrepreneur who understands how to use capital and who's had to use quite a bit of it, and I'm sure will be using quite a bit more as his many ventures grow. Victor Young is the president of Sarasota BMW and Sarasota Lamborghini. And I'll let Victor tell you many of the other things that he's involved in. He's involved in many, many things. And one of the things you find out about entrepreneurs is once they catch a bug, it's a bug, and it continues to roll. So with that, Mr. Young, so Victor, tell us a little bit about how you got started. I mean, how did you get in the car business? I mean, BMW.
On accident.
On accident?
On accident. you know, it's most people that end up in the car business, they end up in the car business by accident. Mm-hmm. Very few people wake up, you know, when they're in middle school and say, I think I want to be a car dealer. Mm-hmm. You know, I was actually in radio and television.
Okay.
And I was there when the consolidators, the Infinity Broadcast, and you know, a lot of the large consolidators, corporations start buying independent stations. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, when you make an investment, you buy a business, you have to reduce expenses. Mm-hmm. You don't buy a business to not make more money.
Right.
So in this acquisition, they started compressing and downsizing positions and compensation. And next thing you know, I went from being a big fish in a small pond to a small fish in a big pond, which means I was broke.
Right, right.
So, you know, I along my travels and hosting events, I'd met some car dealers, and next thing you know, I tried sales, what I thought was going to be a temporary transition for me. And then I saw the vastness of the automobile industry and realized, you know, I'd love to be a dealer one day.
Okay.
So I started my journey.
That is awesome. So I know that a lot of people get started in the car business through the dealer training programs. Correct. Is that something that you were involved in? Or?
I tried.
Okay.
I tried to go through the dealer training program, and it seemed like no matter whose program I tried to enter, I was missing one requirement. Sure. Which most people would have said, well, I guess it's just not meant for me to be in a program or be a dealer. Mm-hmm. That just made me hungrier. Sure. Whenever someone tells me, and it's for good reason, that was their program, it's their requirements. I didn't meet them, no big deal. But it fired me up. Sure. So basically you're telling me that based upon my performance, I'm not good enough. So it just fired me up to go out there and go, okay, how can I raise my own capital and buy my own dealership if I can't get in a program that helps me develop and find my own capital? Okay, well, and you know, I really want us to talk about that because, as I said, the Black Business Investment Corporation is first and foremost, aside from just our technical assistance, we are a capital provider. Mm-hmm. And so we often have people come to us as entrepreneurs wanting to know how can they get money from us to, you know, for their business to help it grow or perhaps to even get started. And not spilling the beans on too much because we want to leave something for the folks that's going to attend the Collaborative Mixer. By the way, folks, you have to come to the Collaborative Mixer if you want to hear the entire story because Victor will be sharing that at our mixer. But talk a little bit about how you went about doing that because, you know, a lot of times, you know, I was a banker for 29 years, but I've also been an entrepreneur. I used to own a dry cleaning chain and also had a nice little consulting business as well. And I can tell you firsthand, having been a banker and then also having to source capital to start my dry cleaning, but that's not a business that we as bankers wanted to be involved in. So you had to find other ways. So how did you find the capital to make happen what you wanted to happen? Here's what happens with a lot of people. They want to convince someone to believe in their business that's not necessarily their primary sweet spot. Mm-hmm. It's not their portfolio. It's just not their thing.
It's just not their thing.
And they will run out of gas trying to convince that big commercial bank that you need to invest in me and give me a loan. And there might be private investment capital on the side saying, I wish I could find operators, dealers, executives, whatever it is that I could partner with and collaborate with and invest in that are just out there looking for that exact person. Mm-hmm. So we spend way too much time in our emotions being affected by guidelines and requirements So I don't meet yours, fine, I might meet yours.
Yes.
So you go to that next place. So really it starts with the research and finding out who is in your industry that's looking to expand, to collaborate, and who can benefit from what you already bring to the table. What a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs bring to the table that most large companies can't do is the ability to work on a scale and develop a project that they can't develop just based upon their legacy expense. What I mean is, and as I'm sure you know, is if you, for example, I've got a production company. My production company, we might go out and work for Grindhouse or Lionsgate because they're so big. For them to crank up this machine and bring out these huge trucks and productions to do what we can do on a smaller scale at a regional level, we can do a film at 25 cents on the dollar compared to what they can.
That's right. In other words, it's not. It just doesn't make sense from a cost standpoint.
It doesn't make sense.
Yes.
So if they can shoot a production instead of for $1 million, for $4 million, for $1 million with the same quality, the same deliverables, the same talent, everything else, but we're just using a small, what I call special forces unit of talented people at a regional, local level, they're going to hire us. And so instead of me going, I can't compete with Lionsgate or whoever else they might be or Sony, I work with them.
Yes.
That's it.
That's right.
And they'll even bring the capital to the table because if it's their script and their project, they'll bring the MG.
Because money's not a problem for them.
Money's not a problem.
And see, and one of the things that entrepreneurs do, and you alluded to it, you have to have drive.
Sure.
Okay. Like you said, that no didn't deter you from going after what it is you wanted. And that's one of the things that I tell people, even if we tell you no, I don't tell you to stop there.
Right.
If it's something that you're passionate about and want to happen, then guess what you're going to do? You're going to go find another way to make it happen.
No means start here.
No
not
means
stop
start
there.
here. That's exactly right. That's good. And see, and those are the kinds of things, folks, that you hear. That's the reason we bring people like Mr. Young to you at the Collaborative Mixer, because our goal is to motivate you. Our goal is to make you understand how you can do it for yourself, how you can make these things happen. So with that, Victor, the production company.
Yes.
Now, and again, I'm intentionally not allowing you to finish the story about the car dealership because they have to tune in later to get that part.
Okay.
How do you go from being in the car business to now getting into production?
It's funny, but sometimes challenges are where new ideas are birthed. And I look back to 2008, being a new car dealer. We had just purchased BMW Sarasota. We just brought in Lamborghini. In 2009, in the middle of the recession, we built our Mini Cooper store. And actually now we're building a Land Rover Jaguar Vocala's under construction right now. Oh, wow. So I'm a new dealer, but I'm in the middle of the recession. And I looked at my financial portfolio, which everyone needs to do a personal financial statement, take inventory of your worth, What is my worth? Everyone has
worth. And you can't be afraid of it.
You can't be, even if it's negative. You got to start with a negative worth and say, let's get to break even, and now I'm going to start building some net worth.
There you go.
And so when I looked at everything, I was 95% all in automotive.
Okay.
And thanks to God, we made it through. We didn't lose any money, protected our investment, and we powered through it. And it's a great enterprise. We're doing hundreds of millions of dollars in revenues annually, and I wasn't affected. However, what it did is it sparked my mind to say, okay, it's time for me to go back to something else that I know I'm good at, diversify my portfolio. Okay. So in the event something happens, I can still bring this commercial side of television and even filmmaking to the table. So I created another business during the time where my other business was under pressure. And it just gave me a peace of mind of knowing now I've got two things in my portfolio. And then I later on added a third division of my portfolio, and that was cash.
Okay. Important.
Cash is king.
It's important.
When you have cash, when others don't, that's when you're able to really find strategic relationships and partnerships. And you can look at it one of two ways. You can say, all right, this guy has cash and he wants to come in as my partner and he wants to be my boss. No, I don't want to be your boss. I want to be a partner. I don't want to run another company if I'm investing with you. But a lot of people don't look at it that way. They look at, if I bring in equity and I want some interest in the company, that's a bad thing. And we as investors and entrepreneurs have to appreciate investors and people willing to bring in capital, put together an exit strategy. You
Yes.
want me out in 2 years? Here's your option. Buy me out in 2 years.
That's right.
But in these 2 years, we can make a ton of money together.
Yes.
I can help you grow your brand and your company, and these are my terms.
And you know what's so funny? You mentioned that, and people oftentimes seek debt instead of equity because with debt, they don't have to give up the ownership.
There you go.
But what they don't understand, you may not be giving up ownership, but you could find yourself giving up a substantial portion of your business if you can't pay that debt back.
Sure.
And equity many times is a bit more friendly than debt because with debt, especially when you're dealing with financial institutions, and you alluded to it earlier, people try and make financial institutions do what they're not designed to do.
Right.
Well, when you get in trouble, there's an obligation that banks have to go after your assets,
right,
and try to find a way to recoup their investment. They have no
it.
choice in that matter. Regulators require them to do that. And so then you can find yourself not owning your company at all anymore.
You got it.
Because if they get you in court and the judge rules their way and all of a sudden your creditors own you, you've lost your entire company. Whereas with the equity investor, they want their investment back.
Sure.
So if that means we have to try to restructure things, maybe even put in more capital to get us all out of it, they're there to do it.
There's a word I love about having a partner.
Yes.
That word is pro rata.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, let me tell you what that means. If we need to put money in, that means if I got 50% and you got 50% and we got to put $1 million in, we put $500,000 each.
That's
not
right.
me putting the whole $1 million. We get to share in the gains, but we also get to share in that reinvestment and recapitalization of the company.
That's right.
So that equity piece and having a partner has so many benefits.
Yes.
And I've had phone calls where my CFO has called me and said, "Hey, your business just grew so much in a month that you've got $3 million over here, and you got $4 million in receivables, and you need to put $1 million in your company today."
Yes. Yep.
And I call my business partner and go, "Hey, meet me at the bank or no, wire the transfer,"
Yeah.
and we send that collectively pro rata our share of that $1 million. Now, if you're an individual, you just got to find $1 million.
Yes.
So it has a lot of benefits to it. So I really like finding people that are in my sweet spot that do the things in the industries that I'm involved in, that I can partner with. They can be the operator, they can be the executive. I can come in as a chairman, as a consultant, as a partner in whatever capacity that I can serve them best to grow the business, and we can make a lot of money together.
Yes.
Well,
let's recap real quick. So you go into the automobile business by accident.
Yep.
Okay. You're told that there's not a lane for you there, and next thing you know, you say, yes, there is, and
Sure.
you create that lane.
Absolutely.
You go out, you access capital to get started, you find the appropriate people to partner with and get this thing going. But then in the downturn, you recognize that there's been, wow, so many of my eggs are in one basket that I need to diversify a little bit and take some eggs and put in another basket. And so you start looking at a different lane and you get involved in production.
Correct.
And so you partner with some folks, you access the capital to do that, put some of your own money in, and now you have another revenue stream, something that'll take you even further. So given all of that, and as we wrap up, what's the exit strategy for you? When will Victor Young say, I think this is done? I mean, if it's a secret, you don't have to reveal the secret, I understand, because you don't want your investors to get shaky and go, oh my gosh, I didn't know Victor was going to be leaving next year. But what's your end game?
By design, I've got partners in almost all of my businesses. I have a production company. It's called Victor Young Productions. It was formerly known as Media Management Global. Changed the name of it a few years back. And then I also acquired a percentage of a production company called Digital Caviar. And we are doing a lot of commercial work, working with a ton of major universities on the commercial side, national corporations, and then also working with a lot of studios and networks around the country and around the world. And actually released a few of our films last year, and we've got a few more in the works for this year coming up. I love that business. It's a lot of fun. In the future, one of the things with technology that exists is one of the most powerful things we have as individuals to compete against automation, innovation, AI, machine learning is our creativity. And a lot of people are overlooking their creativity and their worth and their experience.
Yes.
So I love that business model because of that creativity. There's such a demand for content, for infotainment, education through forms of means of media. So I see that evolving into the whole technical side and the way that we consume and take in our training, our education, our entertainment. On the automotive side, the exit strategy would be one day someone will write us a check.
Okay.
Someone will write us a check. You know, and you know, you may not know the day it's going to happen, but what you do is you run your business in a way that it's such an attractive acquisition candidate.
Yes.
You run a company that your returns are high, your turnover is low, your financial statements, your debt to equity ratios are beautiful for a bank.
Yes.
You just run your business in a way that one day, you know, some multinational company who just has to have you shows up and writes you the, you know, however big that check is.
Yes.
And so that's what every single day we work towards is not just running a company that's a good company, but that's a great company that somebody one day is going to want it more than we want it.
Yes.
And so, you know, the funny thing is this: no matter how many millions of dollars you're worth on paper, until you sell that company,
That's right.
it's on paper.
It's on
I
paper.
can't take a brick out of my BMW dealership, take it to the bank, and go, this brick just came right out of the wall of my BMW store. How much is it worth?
Yes.
You got to sell the facility.
Sell
you got
it
to sell
all.
the assets. You got to sell the business itself. I mean, and so that is the exit strategy one day. When that'll happen, I'm not sure. But again, growing companies that are so lucrative, that are run so well, that are managed so beautiful, that are so network connected, that someone just can't stand it. They've got to buy it.
Well, that's a beautiful thing. It's funny. I had a gentleman tell me some years ago, he's a very successful automobile dealer. And he told me one time, he said, Albert, I'm building a bulletproof business. I said, what do you mean a bulletproof business? He said, I want a business built so well financially that doesn't matter about what happens externally. He said, I keep my debt low, I keep my service good. He said, and I keep my people motivated to make sure that we create value. He said, and that's how I build a bulletproof business. Ironically enough, that gentleman's business was one of the most sought after. When I was in the banking business, everybody used to go after this guy's business because he had such a strong dealership. And when he got ready to cash out, he did extremely well. And you and I have a lot of common friends. So we have a lot of friends that have done extremely well. And it goes back to what you said. They build things that have value. But more than that, they aren't afraid to take risks.
Absolutely.
And so one of the things, again, as we wind up, folks, we want to tell you, the Black Business Investment Corporation, we've been here for 30 years. We can't necessarily fulfill all of your financial needs, but certainly having that conversation, I think, is important. And Victor, as we leave, for those individuals out there that are African-American entrepreneurs, what are some words of encouragement you have for them to tell them about pursuing their dreams? And one day they can become like you and some of the other people that we know.
You know, it's interesting because I was a guy that I didn't make all the right decisions. And people assume that I made all the right decisions. And I didn't. But what I was able to do was get really comfortable with myself and who I am as a business person and entrepreneur. And to also see my strengths and be able to assess a value to those things. And oftentimes we want to compare ourselves to someone else, but in a negative light. And for me, I compared myself in a positive way of saying, well, I have this, I have this, I have this, and then learning to monetize my strengths. And I also knew that just because someone may not like what I have, I knew there were 10 other people in line that I just hadn't met yet. So when you talk about network, I would ask you, does your net work? And if you have a network and it's not working for you, then it's not a network. All right? So don't ever let fear stop you. I mean, fear is the only thing that probably can stop an entrepreneur. I mean, it's the worst thing in the world that can even enter. And I tell people all the time, fear may enter my body and my mind for a matter of a second until I can laugh it out of my head. Because I know that anytime there's an opportunity, there's a solution and there's a need. And I would rather go and battle my way through a problem that most people fear than to try to create something brand new and then raise enough marketing capital to convince people they need this product.
Yes.
That's tough.
Yes, that's tough.
That's tough. Introducing something that no one even knows they need yet and then trying to
Absolutely.
sell them on it. But when there's this wall, this speed bump, this huge problem that everyone sees that exists, and you're the guy who goes and masters it, it's money. So those are things you run to. Those are things you circle, but you don't do it alone. You take the smartest people you know, and you go, let's look at this thing from 360 degrees. Let's do a continuous improvement cycle. Let's do a market study. Let's do something, and let's bring the walls down to this problem and see how we can monetize it and make it work for us. And that is the thing that most people don't do. A. B, they don't look for the upside. How can you monetize it? And then how can I bring an investor into this? And this is something that's really important. And you in banking, you understand this. I have so many people come to me with ideas and ventures that look promising, but they never have a plan for me to get my money back.
That's right.
That's the first thing I want to hear. How are you going to get me out of the deal and get me my money back?
That's right.
I'm not a nonprofit. I'm just not there yet. I'm still getting paid making money.
Yes.
And although I do give hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to charity and my business are two different things.
Absolutely.
My business is not a charity, and it will never probably be there. It's a machine that I can provide charity and contributions, but that's not what my company is.
Yes.
And so with that said, when you approach someone, make sure you got a game plan on this is how you will get your money back, and this is when you will get your money back, and you're good. And know what their requirements are. Do a little research, because people spend too much time trying to pitch something from their heart and from their spirit, and that's good. You got to have that passion of an entrepreneur, and no one's going to believe in your product and your project like you will, but you got to get outside of that for a minute and see that there's a business wrapped around it, and make sure that there's a need for it, and make sure you have a game plan on being able to return the investment, whether it's sweat or actual, that someone brings to the table.
Well, I got to tell you, that is key. Oftentimes people come to you and want the money. They have a plan for your money, but they don't necessarily have a plan to get you back your money.
Absolutely.
And that's it. That's very important. And I want to end on this note. You mentioned your charity work, and I didn't want us to leave without people understanding how you and your wife, Tia, give back. I know she's worked with young people, helping them learn etiquette and working with empowering young women and things like that. I know you and I'm trying to think, how many years it's been. We were both presenters. James Evans had us over at Tampa Academy of Hope. Had us over, and I think he had a night of stars, I think he called it, and I don't know why he had me up there on stage and invited me, but I was fortunate enough to be there, and you were there as well. And I know you've been involved with the Powers Couple Ball for a number of years. So there's been a number of things I know that you guys give back to, and you give not only of your time and your talent, but you give of your treasure as well. So we want to thank you for that. And folks, I've had the good fortune of being in a position to purchase some vehicles from Mr. Young down at BMW. So I'm going to encourage you, if you're in the market for a BMW, one of those Lamborghinis that he has, and maybe some of the new dealerships that he's bringing up, it's worth the trip down to Sarasota to go see him. They took great care of us, and your people treated us first class. You came out, talked to me. That was at the time you were opening up the Lamborghini store. Yes. And I remember we went in the back, and you guys fired one up and let us hear what what one of them sound like. So we appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
And I want to thank Drew Ware for doing that. And with that, folks, let me tell you, I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to risk spilling any on myself. But this Amaretto coffee down at 5508, you got to try some of it. It's good stuff, and I can't wait till we get off the air to eat the bagel and to go ahead and drink some coffee. So with that, we'll wrap up our Tampa Bay Black Business Investment Entrepreneur Series with Mr. Victor Young, President of Sarasota BMW and Sarasota Lamborghini, and Victor Young Productions. With that, we'll see you next segment, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the Collaborative Mixer.
We'll see you there.
That was good, man. We'll take that show on the road.